Dexter Morgan, a forensic blood spatter analyst for Miami Metro Police, is introduced in Season 1 of Dexter, working days to legally imprison criminals while secretly hunting and killing other serial killers taught by his late adoptive father, Detective Harry Morgan. Dexter follows a rigid rule to kill only those he believes deserve it, channeling his dark urges by meticulously planning each murder in his private kill room, dumping the bodies at sea and keeping blood samples from every victim. Meanwhile, he works at the police department with his adoptive son. Deborah has long resented Dexter for his close bond with her father, never realizing their frequent hunting trips were actually covering Dexter's need to kill. While working with him are Forensic Chief Vince Masuka, Detective Angel Batista, who's trying to reconcile with his estranged wife, Lieutenant Maria Luerta, their driven boss, and Detective James Dokes, the only one who suspects Dexter's hidden side. A police investigation launches into a new serial killer called the Ice Truck Killer, who freezes victims to dismember them without blood. And when he learns Dexter is tracking him, he invades Dexter's apartment to observe him before baiting Dexter by dumping victim body parts at sites Dexter frequented as a child with his adoptive father, Harry. The Ice Truck Killer uncovers Dexter's serial killings, recovers his victims' bodies, and leaves them for police to discover, while Dexter and his allies rescue one of the killer's latest victims, revealing the murderer often uses throat lozenges, and Dexter starts dating a single mother to hide his detached personality. Still recovering from past domestic abuse and wary of closeness, Rita faces her paroled ex-husband Paul, now claiming to be reformed, who tries to re-enter her life and reconcile with their children. But when he turns violent again, she strikes him with a baseball bat to defend herself and flees. Paul exploits this by charging Rita with assault to gain custody of their children, so Dexter attacks him and frames him for a drug overdose, sending Paul back to prison. But after Paul begs Rita to believe he was framed, she uncovers evidence proving his claim. Deborah and Batista later find that the Ice Truck Killer is a taxidermist named Neil Perry, who admits to the murders, while La Guerta grows angry when Captain Matthews claims sole credit for the capture. Though Dexter initially feels let down that the killer is just a disturbed man, talking to Perry reassures him that the true mastermind remains free, still a challenging opponent. Deborah soon starts dating Rudy Cooper, a man who makes prosthetics for the hospital, and the two quickly fall in love, planning a future together. Though no one realizes Rudy is, Dexter discovers his biological father, Joe Driscoll, just died and left him his house and all possessions, but suspects he may have been murdered. As Dexter arrives to clear out the home, Rita, Deborah, and Rudy show up to help, with Rudy trying to connect with Dexter to earn his girlfriend's Irma, Driscoll's elderly neighbor, recognizes Rudy as the repairman who once worked at Dexter's father's house, so Rudy kills her to hide his secret identity as Driscoll's murderer, while elsewhere, police discover a hotel room filled with blood from the Ice Truck Killer's drained victims, confirming that jail. When Dexter sees the bloody scene, it triggers long-buried childhood memories, including watching his mother, Laura, brutally murdered at age 3, then being locked in a shipping container smeared with her blood. Laura had worked as an informant for Detective Harry Morgan, who later adopted Dexter and tried to erase the boy's traumatic past. When Batista is unexpectedly attacked by a masked Rudy, a crowd chases the assailant away and saves the detective's life. But Rudy later takes Deborah on a boat, proposes, and after she joyfully agrees, she discovers from a lozenge wrapper that he is the Ice Truck Killer, prompting him to strangle her unconscious and ready her as his next victim. Meanwhile, Dexter realizes Rudy attacked Batista and is the Ice Truck Killer, so he rushes to save his sister from certain death, while Lagerta and Dokes reach the same conclusion and start hunting Rudy to avenge the injured Batista. At the season's end, Dexter traces Rudy's clues and learns the ice truck killer is his biological brother, Brian, who was beside him when their mother was murdered, though Dexter blocked the memory, while Brian was institutionalized with antisocial personality disorder. And now Brian lures Dexter to their childhood home, proposing they kill Deborah as a twisted Dexter rescues his sister and is praised as a hero, yet secretly kills Brian and makes the death appear self-inflicted, certain no one would see him as heroic if they discovered his murderous urges in Season 2. Though he flawlessly conceals Brian's murder, Detective Dokes scrutinizes him closely, still suspecting his role in the ice truck killings and forcing Dexter to act cautiously. In one the and measy use I gract, and Juck, Dexter struggles to control his urge to kill, while Deborah battles PTSD after discovering she was unknowingly engaged to the ice truck killer, raising concerns about her mental state. Meanwhile, Lagerta's affair with her new boss, Pascal's fiancé, triggers the woman's emotional collapse, prompting Captain Matthews to restore Lagerta's lieutenant rank. The FBI, led by Special Agent Frank Lundy, joins Miami Metro detectives to investigate after 30 garbage bags holding Dexter's victim's body parts surface in the local bay, earning the killer the name Bay Harbor Butcher. As the Bay Harbor Butcher's infamy spreads, fueling a comic called The Dark Defender that paints the killer as a vigilante hero, Dexter fears exposure, while Deborah, unaware the murderer is her adopted brother, grows close to Lundy, who starts suspecting the butcher could be a cop after the victims are linked to violent criminals who escaped justice. While the FBI fails to identify the killer, Dokes grows suspicious of Dexter and launches his own careless probe, ignoring Lua's warnings to stop harassing his co-worker, just as Dexter manipulates him into threatening the wrong suspect, ruining Dokes' credibility and getting him suspended. While Rita dismisses her jailed husband, Paul is later killed by another inmate, leaving Rita racked with guilt for failing to help her husband prove his innocence and secure his freedom. When she challenges Dexter about her suspicions, he admits to drugging Paul to ensure his arrest and removal from Rita and her children's lives. Though she forgives him, her questions about how he got the drugs lead Dexter to falsely claim he's an addict, a lie Rita accepts as the reason for his odd and unpredictable behavior. Dexter starts attending Narcotics Anonymous to maintain his act, confessing his violent impulses, what he calls his dark passenger, and gains support from his sponsor, Laya, who accepts him and even admires the Bay Harbor. Dexter eventually starts hunting serial killers on his own, which leads him and Laya into a hidden relationship before he finally confronts his mother's killer, Santos Jimenez, who reveals Laura Moser was murdered for being both an informant and detective, Harry Morgan's secret lover. When Laya naively tells Dexter that drugs won't heal his heartache, he spares his mother's murderer, and as they grow closer, she admits she burned down her abusive ex's house while high, accidentally killing him. But Dexter reassures her the act was justified. After Rita finds out about Dexter's affair with Laya, she breaks up with him. Yet Dexter remains involved with her children, a situation that frustrates the jealous Laya, who later burns down her own apartment to fake victimhood, and Santos comes back and attempts to kill Dexter. But Dexter's co-workers intervene and force Santos to escape. Dexter hunts Santos down again and this time kills him with a chainsaw, finally avenging his mother's death, only to later find that Laya's followers have broken into Rita's house to terror. While investigating his unstable girlfriend Laya, Dexter discovers she arranged Santos's attack on him to pull him closer. Then, fearing for Rita and her kids, orders Laya to stay away. After Dexter rejects her, Laya starts dating Batista, frames him for assault, and offers to drop the charges only if Dexter resumes their relationship. Lundy begins to suspect Dos is the Bay Harbor Butcher, since Dose led investigations where the serial killer's victims went unpunished, reasoning that also makes him doubt Dexter's guilt less. Then, Dose. Believing Dose is the butcher, the FBI raids his car and discovers his collection of blood samples from his victims, giving them all the evidence needed to convict him as the infamous serial killer, forcing Dose to flee with nothing. Luerta remains convinced of his innocence, while Dose confronts Dexter, who is disposing of evidence that could link him to the Butcher Bay killings, and after a struggle, Dexter takes a bullet to the leg but overpowers Dose. Dexter then forges more fake evidence to pin the Butcher murders on Dose while planning to kill him. But first, Dose hints he knows a secret about Dexter's adoptive father, Harry. So when Dose won't talk, Dexter turns to Captain Matthews and discovers Harry didn't die of a heart attack, as he'd been told, but by suicide, racked with guilt over. Dexter later hunts down another deserving criminal, kills him before a devastated Dose, and is reminded of the time Harry had watched him murder an earlier target. Dexter then understands he caused his father's death, since Harry had blamed himself for the man Dexter had turned into, and, overwhelmed by guilt, Dexter declares he will release Dose and surrender. But first, he spends a last day tying up loose ends, sharing one final joyful moment with Rita and her kids before meeting Deb to confess his darkest secret. With Dose dead, the Bay Harbor Butcher case is officially closed, freeing Butcher and Dexter to be with her, while Lundy leaves Miami for his next case, his relationship with Deborah still. Dexter finally makes up with Rita, only for Leia to kidnap her children, threaten their lives, and force Dexter to rescue them before he kills her. With her killing spree over, and everyone who knew his secret dead, Leia left Dexter, the real Bay Harbor Butcher, free to resume his double life in Season 3, assisting Miami Metro Police by day while secretly killing criminals, only for his hunt for drug-dealing murderer Freebo to go wrong when bystander Oscar Bravo intervened, leaving Dexter no choice. Dexter is upset after killing an innocent man, breaking the moral rules his late father had taught him, while Oscar's brother, Miguel Prau, a determined and influential assistant district attorney, hunts for his brother's killer and teams up with Dexter, not realizing his new ally is the murderer he's chasing. And as they investigate together, an unexpected friendship grows. Miguel captures Freebo, thinking he murdered Oscar, while Dexter falsely claims he killed Freebo in self-defense, earning Miguel's gratitude for avenging his brother and his help hiding the crime. Meanwhile, Deborah and Miami Metro start probing a string of murders linked to the still missing Freebo. During the hunt for the serial killer known as the Skinner, Detective Joey Quinn joins Miami Metro and teams up with Deborah, only for Sergeant Yuki Yamato to later warn Deborah that Internal Affairs is investigating Quinn and demand she monitor and report on his every move. Yet, as Deborah grows to trust him, she alerts Quinn instead, prompting Amato to abandon the probe. Meanwhile, Rita learns she's carrying Dexter's child, and though Dexter initially worries his emotional emptiness will make him an unfit father, killing a local predator convinces him he can do whatever it takes to keep his children safe. So he asks Rita to marry him, confident he can now be the ideal husband and father, as Dexter's friendship with Miguel deepens. Miguel confides in him about a secret. Dexter kills the man who murdered his own wife, the same man Miguel had failed to convict, pleasing Miguel, who then suggests they team up to punish other guilty people. With help from Quinn's informant Anton, Deborah navigates Miami's criminal underworld while the two start a hidden relationship. Without knowing about the situation, Batista proposes using Anton as bait to lure the Skinner, and despite Deborah's objections, the plan moves forward, resulting in Anton being abducted by the serial killer, who then identifies himself to Anton as George King, a man Freebo had owed a lot. Initially, King aimed to hunt down Freebo's associates and coerce them into revealing his whereabouts, but soon his desire to kill took over, turning those associates into ideal targets until Deborah and Quinn locate and rescue Anton. Though King gets away, Anton remains the sole surviving witness able to confirm George King as the Skinner. But his involvement with Deborah could ruin the case, so Dexter reassures her by admitting their father, Harry Morgan, once had an affair with an informant, though he hides the fact that the informant was his own late mother. While still working secretly with Dexter, Miguel grows frustrated with the legal system for letting criminals escape punishment, especially his nemesis, defense attorney Ellen Wolf, who was now probing his history of misconduct and unethical methods to lock up offenders. And Miguel's behavior worsens until he eventually apologizes, after which Dexter invites him to be his best man. But then Miguel asks Dexter to teach him how to kill. Dexter reluctantly teaches Miguel his late father's moral code, how to select the ideal criminal victim, and how to avoid punishment for murder, only for Miguel to become more reckless, ignore the rules, and kill his rival, Ellen Wolf, which forces Dexter to guide police to her body, scold Miguel for his carelessness, and recognize his own failure. Miguel has exploited and controlled him from the beginning of their friendship to serve his own selfish and deadly plans, turning the once close friends into bitter enemies. So Miguel starts an affair with Lagerta to disrupt Dexter's work, while Dexter reveals the affair to Miguel's wife, then collects proof of Miguel's crimes, only for Miguel to retaliate by threatening to expose Deborah and Anton. Destroying their case against the Skinner would also put Deborah's career at risk, and both men eventually conclude that the sole solution is to kill each other, while Lagerta quietly uses her new relationship with Miguel to probe his possible role in Ellen's murder. Dexter prefers to kill Miguel rather than let him be arrested, even though this risks Miguel revealing Dexter's crimes. So when Miguel realizes Lua suspects him, he plans to murder her. But Dexter captures him first and takes him. As Miguel begs for his life and calls Dexter his brother, Dexter coldly replies that he has already killed both his own brother, Brian, and Miguel's brother, Oscar, then strangles Miguel and stages the body to frame the Skinner. But Miguel had already told King, the Skinner's ally, that Dexter was the only one who knew where Freebo was, so King captures Dexter and tries to torture the answer out of him. By the season's end, Dexter admits he had killed Freebo years earlier before escaping and killing King, leaving him free from threats so he can marry Rita with Deborah as his new best man. But in Season 4, months later, he struggles to juggle family life, including raising newborn son Harrison with his secret murderous urges, while tension rises when Rita learns while he unknowingly uses it to prepare for his murders and store his blood samples. Rita finds comfort in their neighbor Elliot, who confesses his feelings for her with a kiss as they attend couples therapy to address their problems. As Dexter quickly forgives the act, Rita worries he may not truly love her, while a new serial killer in Miami, the Trinity Killer, who has murdered 3 people annually in different cities for 30 years, draws FBI agent Frank Lundy back to lead the hunt, determined to finally catch the elusive killer he's long pursued. As Quinn helps investigate the Trinity Killer, he starts dating Christine, a journalist also looking into the case, while elsewhere in the Miami Metro Police Department, Batista and Laguerta secretly begin a relationship until Captain Matthews finds out and warns he'll transfer them to different units unless they end it, citing Batista and Lua quickly marry to shield themselves from legal or professional trouble, while Deborah starts investigating her late father's secret relationship with an informant, only to abandon the search in distress after learning Harry repeatedly slept with his sources, unaware. The woman was Laura Moser, Dexter's mother. While Deborah rekindles her relationship with Anton, the return of her ex, Lundy, leaves her torn. But just as they reconcile and near uncovering the Trinity killer's identity, an unknown assailant ambushes them, killing Lundy and leaving Deborah critically wounded. So Dexter comforts his grieving sister while using Lundy's notes to trace the killer's patterns. While tracking the killer to his home, Dexter discovers the man is Arthur Mitchell, a high school teacher, church deacon, and charity organizer who builds homes for the homeless. Lives a normal suburban life with his family, but instead of arresting him, Dexter creates a fake identity as Kyle Butler to get close to and study the Trinity killer. As Arthur and Dexter become closer, Arthur helps Dexter mend his relationship with Rita and shares his own painful history, admitting he unintentionally caused his sister's death when they were after his mother's death and his father's abuse, ending with young Arthur being forced to kill his father. Dexter sees that every one of Arthur's murders mirrors how his own family died. So when Dexter watches Arthur harm his wife and children, he loses control, reveals his hidden violent side, and nearly kills the Trinity killer in front of them, only stopping when Arthur's family steps in, leaving Dexter worried he might someday treat his own family the same way. As Deborah investigates Lundy's death, she discovers that the reporter Christine is actually the killer, then convinces a hesitant Quinn to help her collect DNA evidence that Muska later uses to prove Christine is the Christine, desperate, turns to her father for help and admits she started an affair with Quinn and killed Lundy to protect Arthur's identity as the Trinity killer. But he rejects her as his daughter and refuses to help now that police are closing in. So as officers near, she chooses death, sacrificing herself for a father who would never love her. With Lundy's murder resolved and his killer justly punished, Deborah resumes her probe into Harry's dealings with informants, only to uncover his affair with Laura Moser, the birth mother of Dexter and Brian, leaving her stunned to learn her adopted brother shares blood with her deceased fiancé, the ice truck killer. Dexter worries. This revelation will expose his hidden life to Deborah, but she instead thinks Brian only exploited her to reach Dexter, so she turns to her adopted brother for comfort, while Dexter rushes to kill Arthur Mitchell, the newly identified Trinity killer. Arthur then kidnaps a young boy, planning to begin another killing cycle, and Dexter discovers that Arthur actually murders 4 victims each cycle, starting with a boy symbolizing the loss of his own childhood, before burying their bodies beneath the homes his charity constructs as the season ends. Dexter rescues the Trinity killer's next young target before finally catching and killing Arthur Mitchell, certain this will be his last kill, as his love for family now overpowers his dark urges. As Dexter joyfully heads back to reunite with his family, he makes the gruesome discovery that Arthur had murdered Rita before dying, leaving baby Harrison sitting in her blood, just as Dexter had been left after witnessing his own mother's murder as a child. And in Season 5, he remains in shock over Rita's death, blaming himself for Elliot. His visibly upset neighbor mourns Rita's death, while Dexter's cold indifference raises Quinn's suspicions, especially after Quinn discovers Rita had kissed Elliot, making him doubt Dexter's role in her death. Meanwhile, Deborah, heartbroken for her brother, turns to Quinn for support, and the two start a relation. In a burst of anger after Rita's death, Dexter brutally kills a stranger who provokes him, then accepts that though he processes emotions differently, he genuinely loved her and is now deeply grieving, while Quinn secretly investigates Dexter and uncovers his Kyle Butler alias, used to get close to Arthur Mitchell. Luerta warns Quinn to stop investigating his colleague, but Quinn disregards the order and tracks down Arthur's family, now in FBI witness protection, hoping they'll confirm Dexter is Kyle Butler and expose his ties to the Trinity killer, only to be blocked by the FBI, after which a furious Luerta, while investigating a grieving co-worker without clear cause, Dexter, juggling solo parenting of Harrison, sending Reed's other children to their grandparents and his own police duties, spots Boyd Fowler dumping barrels in a marsh where he later finds countless more filled with corpses. After killing Boyd in his home, Dexter finds Lumen Pierce, a woman Boyd had imprisoned in his attic, who tells him Boyd was one of many men who abused and killed women and that the others remain free, so she asks Dexter to help her hunt them down. Though Dexter initially refuses, he eventually helps Lumen hunt down and kill all the men behind her abuse and the Barrel Girl's murders after she recklessly seeks revenge on her own. While elsewhere, Deborah starts investigating a case to stop two murderous robbers, Carlos and Marco Fuentes, with Lua. A chaotic shootout left Deborah forced to kill Carlos Fuentes, her first fatal shooting, while Marco escaped and several civilians were caught in the crossfire. The department then deflected all blame onto her to avoid accountability, sparking intense public scrutiny. Like her adopted brother Dexter, she believes the death was justified, while Batista offers comfort and support, despite opposing his own wife. Deborah faces an internal affairs investigation after Batista punches a fellow officer for insulting Lagerta, with IAA investigator Jim McCourt probing the assault and pressuring Lagerta to strike a deal to shield her husband. Lagerta assists internal affairs in setting up a sting that gets corrupt narcotics officer Stan Liddy fired, after which Quinn bonds with Liddy over their mutual resentment of Lagerta and pays him to secretly investigate Dexter Morgan's ties to Arthur Mitchell. A truck carrying barrels of dead women crashes, and though the driver escapes, police find the victims, exposing a new serial killer group called the Barrel Girl Gang. Fearful this could expose Lumen and her vigilante revenge mission to the police, he starts altering evidence to conceal who renowned motivational speaker Jordan Chase and his bodyguard Cole Harmon owned the truck, which they say was stolen, and insist they have an alibi proving their innocence. Yet Lumen identifies Cole as one of her. Dexter then helps her kill Cole and get rid of his body, not realizing Lee is watching them and recording proof to give to Quinn. So when Deborah learns Quinn is secretly investigating her brother, she furiously ends. After Lai attempts to hand Quinn the damning photos of Dexter, Quinn sends Lydia away, hoping to stop the investigation since it ruined his relationship with Deborah. But Lai insists on pursuing the case, believing that exposing Dexter will restore his reputation and career. Purple. Lee captures Dexter and tries to force a confession for his crimes, knowing the illegally obtained evidence would be inadmissible in court. But Dexter resists and kills. As Quinn shows up to meet his ex-partner, Litty conceals himself. Just then, a drop of Litty's blood lands on Quinn's shoe without either Dexter or Quinn noticing. And once police later find Litty's body, they uncover his long-hidden collaboration with Quinn and launch. Quinn is arrested after Litty's blood is found on his shoe, while Dexter and Lumen locate Emily Birch, the first Barrel Girl gang survivor who identifies Jordan Chase as her. Dexter not only exposes Alex Tilden as the gang's last surviving member, but also guides Lumen in killing him for revenge, after which the two sleep together, though Dexter later recognizes that even after showing his true self to Lumen, she views him not as a monster, but as a hero. Yet as Dexter and Lumen plan a way around Jordan Chase's heavy security to eventually kill the last surviving Barrel Girl gang member. By the time Dexter arrives, Chase has already killed Emily and captured Lumen, leaving only a blood trail for Dexter to follow, while Deborah keeps investigating the Barrel Girl case on her own. Dexter rescues Lumen, and together they kill Jordan Chase before hiding evidence at the crime scene, only for Deborah to walk in, though she doesn't recognize them, and instead of arresting them, she urges them to escape, moved by her own past act of killing Carlos Fuentes. Dexter clears Quinn of Lid's death by faking the blood test results, urges Deborah to stay with the detective if she wants to, and says a sad goodbye to Lumen as she leaves Miami, finally at peace and done with her vengeful past. Though heartbroken after her death, Dexter holds on to hope that he might someday find love, happiness, and escape his inner darkness. So by season 6, a year later, he has resumed his double life, juggling police work with his killing, while Lagerta, now captain but divorced, Batista's younger sister Jamie, takes over as Harrison's new babysitter, while Quinn gets ready to propose to his girlfriend Deborah, only for her to turn him down first, admitting she isn't ready for marriage, which pushes Quinn into depression, heavy drinking, and sleeping with multiple women. The Miami Metro Police Department then starts investigating a fresh wave of murders carried out by the so-called Doomsday Killers, unaware that the perpetrators are Professor James Geller, a former religious studies professor who claims his mission is divinely ordained, and his protege, ex-student Travis Marshall, who believe their revelation-inspired killings will trigger as Travis keeps getting distracted and hesitates to finish their killings. Geller must repeatedly push him to complete what they see as their sacred mission, while Dexter works to uncover the Doomsday Killer's identity. Despite his skepticism about people changing, Dexter grows close to Sam, a former convict-turned-minister dedicated to reforming criminals, and though their outlooks clash, they deeply respect each other, leading Dexter to even pray for his son Harrison's safety during surgery after Sam's influence. Since seeing his mother killed as a baby, he carries a hidden darkness, one that surfaces when his brother Sam is shot by Nick, a gang member he'd once tried to reform. And though Sam urges forgiveness before dying, Dexter ignores it and kills Nick in cold revenge. After betraying everything his brother Sam taught him, Dexter starts seeing hallucinations of his dead serial killer brother Brian, who urges him to fully embrace his dark impulses, then learns that Arthur Mitchell's wife and daughter were murdered, allegedly by the Trinity Killer, and tracks down Arthur's son Jonah, only to find out Jonah killed his mother after she accused him. Jonah, feeling remorse for Arthur's actions, asks Dexter to kill him, but Dexter refuses and lets him leave the specter of Brian behind to follow his father Harry's moral code. After bravely stopping an active shooter and becoming a public hero, Deborah is promoted to lieutenant by Deputy Chief Matthews, bypassing the more senior Batista, which frustrates both him and Luerta. Then uses her new role to advance Officer Mike Anderson to detective, and despite rushing to call it a simple overdose, Deborah starts probing the call girl's death, rejecting that conclusion, as evidence suggests someone else was there when she died, and later finds Matthews had been with her, but did nothing to prevent her fatal overdose. Fearful of a humiliating PR scandal, he left immediately, while Lagua, aware of Matthews' past with call girls, used that information to force him to promote her to captain. Now that Deborah has exposed this secret, Lua forces Matthews into retirement and threatens Deborah into silence, while Deborah starts seeing the department's therapist to finally confront the violence she endured as a detective. Despite her emotional struggles, especially her jealousy over Dexter's bond with their father, Harry, Deborah eventually understood through therapy that her feelings for Dexter went beyond sibling love and might actually be romantic. Dexter's private probe into the Doomsday Killers reveals Travis's identity, who admits under confrontation that Geller orchestrates the murders and that he himself is growing increasingly unwilling to participate. So Dexter releases Travis to covertly track him to Geller. However, when Travis and Geller abduct Holly as their next target, Travis defies Geller by freeing her, then leaves Geller to stay with his sister Lisa, while Holly reports the crime to police. But once Lisa turns up as the killer's late, Travis has been the true offender and persuades Dexter to join him in finally destroying the professor. But as they collaborate, Dexter stumbles upon Geller's long-dead body in Travis's freezer, revealing that Geller was Travis's first doomsday victim and that the professor is now just Travis's inner darkness, guiding what he believes is. As the season ends, Travis, now convinced Dexter is the apocalyptic beast from Revelation, kidnaps Harrison to sacrifice him and trigger the prophesied end times. But Dexter rescues his son and stops the killer, only for Deborah to walk in as he kills Travis in a church, declare her love for her adopted brother, and stumble upon his dark secret. In Season 7, Dexter tells Deborah about their father Harry's moral code, which allows him to kill only those who have murdered others. And though upset by this, she helps him burn the church and all evidence tying him to Travis's death. But during Miami Metro's investigation, Lagerta finds a blood sample Dexter unknowingly dropped, one stored in the same slide type used by the Bay Harub butcher. Before his death, Detective James Dose, already exposed as the infamous killer, had secretly told Lagerta he suspected Dexter, and now she is ready to avenge him. Purple. Lagerta isn't the only one trying to take Dexter down. Lewis, still furious over Dexter burning him, is now vengefully working to destroy his life. Dexter then reverses the situation by breaking up Lewis and Jamie, showing her evidence of his infidelity and getting Muska to dismiss Lewis after exposing that he stole the ice truck killer's prosthetic hand, while Deborah agrees to hide Dexter's secret only if he quits killing, though he later pleads for her permission to kill the newly paroled murderer Ray Speltzer. Despite her faith in the justice system, Deborah's refusal allows Speltzer to kill again, an act that horrifies her but finally makes her see why Dexter's murders, though still repulsive, are necessary, leaving her with guilty relief when Dexter eventually kills Speltzer. Meanwhile, Detective Mike Anderson encounters a man named Victor Basco and accidentally finds a dead stripper in his trunk, only for Victor to impulsively kill Anderson and escape, prompting the Miami Metro Department to investigate their murdered colleague, which leads Dexter to secretly hunt down and kill Victor. While the other detectives investigate the foxhole, the strip club where the stripper worked, which serves as one of many fronts for the Kaska Brotherhood, a Ukrainian crime syndicate. One of its leaders, Isaac Kiro, arrives in Miami to handle the police scrutiny and locate the missing Victor. As Quinn investigates without knowing Victor is already dead, he meets and falls for a stripper, Nadia, whom her boss, foxhole manager George Novikov, pressures into using her new relationship to help the Brotherhood track. With Quinn's help, Isaac and George trace Victor's body to the marina where Dexter had dumped it, only to find Lewis drilling into Dexter's boat in a petty act of revenge. So Isaac tortures him for information, uncovers Dexter's ownership of the boat, and then kills the disgraced. Realizing Dexter had killed Victor, Isaac vows to take personal revenge, so Dexter, seeking self-protection, tricks Isaac into a trap with a rival gang, which the Ukrainian then wipes out alone. Isaac gets arrested for the killings, but George warns he'll kill Nadia unless Quinn fakes evidence to free Isaac. Yet even when Quinn agrees, George keeps Nadia captive, only letting her pay Quinn $10,000 while threatening to reveal his corruption if he. Quinn, upset, hands the money to Batista, who is considering leaving the police to start his own restaurant, while Isaac, even with the case closed, still refuses to let Dexter escape punishment for Victor's murder, prompting the Brotherhood, frustrated by his reckless vengeance, to send a hitman after him. As Dexter reveals that Victor was his hidden lover and the reason he wanted revenge, but Isaac, who respects Dexter, asks for his help against the hitmen. After they kill the assassins together, George shows up and fatally shoots Isaac. So Dexter leaves Isaac's body where Victor's was dumped. After discovering George plans to send Nadia to Dubai, Quinn shoots and kills the strip club manager, then fakes a self-defense scenario by having Nadia shoot him in the shoulder. But once freed from the Brotherhood, she moves to Vegas to start over, leaving Quinn upset. Meanwhile, Miami Metro Police start probing the victims of recent. In this investigation, Dexter encounters Hannah McKay, the murdered killer's former girlfriend and unwilling accomplice, coerced into covering up the crimes, and quickly grows infatuated with her after she agrees to help police while working with Dexter, he starts to suspect Hannah was involved in several murders, including killing her abusive counselor as a teen and, more recently, her own husband, until Deborah's new boyfriend, true crime author S. Price, shows Dexter evidence proving Hannah's guilt. Dexter gets ready to kill Hannah next, but when she accepts her fate and his identity as a murderer, he lets her go, and they end up sleeping together, unaware that while he deletes all of S's evidence against her, his new girlfriend has already poisoned and killed S. Hannah finally admits to Dexter every murder she's committed, describing her abusive history and why she felt forced to kill, and Dexter, convinced he's found his ideal partner, tells her. Deborah snaps and begs her brother to kill S's murderer. But Dexter refuses, picking Hannah over her, which pushes Deborah to admit she had loved her adopted brother all along. Deborah, desperate, digs into Hannah's past for proof she's a killer, but just as she nearly gathers enough evidence, she's severely injured in a car crash, worsened by Hannah poisoning her. And when Dexter learns his new lover tried to kill his sister, he hands Deborah proof. Hannah is eventually charged with murder, but escapes, while Lagertha persuades the retired Matthews to restart the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation, provided she helps him regain his police position. As Lagertha's probe zeroes in on Dexter as the sole suspect, Matthews loses patience and alerts Dexter about her dangerous fixation. Just as Estrada, the last killer tied to Dexter's mother's death, is freed from prison. When Dexter moves to kill Estrada, he realizes Lagertha arranged the release as bait, then barely escapes her ambush after she brings a police team to arrest him. Dexter slips away, leaving Lagertha with nothing again, then alters evidence so the whole department thinks she has been publicly and obsessively trying to frame him as the Bay Harbor Butcher, ruining her reputation. But she refuses to give up, vowing to take down Dexter and expose his sister Deb's complicity. As the season ends, Dexter tricks Lagertha into a trap, certain that only her death will halt her probe into his killings, but Deborah intervenes to stop him, urging him to face punishment, only to later regret her choice and kill Lagertha herself to shield her brother. By the finale, Dexter consoles his sister, but remains uncertain about the consequences for their moral principles after killing their innocent friend. And in Season 8, months after Lagertha's death, though Dexter has resumed his usual routine, his bond with a guilt-stricken Deborah is shattered, as she resents him for wrecking her life, and bitterly, Lagertha's push led her to quit the police and start working as a private investigator, while Batista remained with the department and was promoted to lieutenant, just as Miami Metro began hunting a new serial killer nicknamed the Brain Surgeon for removing parts of it. Chief Matthews, now back in charge, recruits Dr. Evelyn Vogel, nicknamed the Psychopath Whisperer, to help catch the killer, and she tells Dexter that years earlier, a worried Harry Morgan had sought her guidance to control young Dexter's violent impulses, meaning she was the one who designed the moral code Harry later taught his son. After police appear to arrest the brain surgeon, Vogel privately tells Dexter the real killer remains free and proposes they secretly team up, believing the psychiatrist's former patient is the culprit, while Deborah spirals into substance abuse, which Quinn hides but worries may harm her. So Dexter asks Dr. Vogel to help his sister manage her trauma. As Deborah processes her emotions, she learns Harry died from revulsion after seeing Dexter's brutal murders, and in her distress, she tries to kill her brother by driving their car into a lake. Dexter hesitates again before saving his brother, while the brain surgeon is exposed as A.J. Yates, a former patient of Vogler, who abducts the psychiatrist, pushing Dexter and Deborah to unite despite their conflicts to rescue her. And in the end, Dexter kills Yates before stating that Deborah and Vogler. While traveling, Muska meets Nikki, a young woman he unknowingly fathered as a sperm donor, and upon learning she works as a topless waitress, he resolves to improve her life and secures her a job. While working as a lab assistant, Quinn's department investigates the murder of a young maid, Norma Rivera, and uncovers that she had been having an affair with her wealthy employer, Ed Hamilton, before she died, while a witness reports seeing Ed's son, Zach, near the murder scene. While Quinn and Dexter try to probe Zach as a suspect, Matthews blocks their investigation because the influential Hamilton family funds the Miami Metro Police Department. So Zach is sent to Dr. Vogel, where he admits to being the killer. But instead of reporting him, she decides to teach. After learning Zach wants to kill his father and his mistresses because their affairs harmed his mother's mental health, Dexter takes him in to teach him how to be an ethical serial killer, while Hannah, now married to a rich businessman, returns to Miami under a new identity. Hannah says Miles Kastner, powerful enough to give her a new identity despite being a top fugitive, soon turned abusive, and though she now wants Dexter to kill him, Dexter refuses. But when Miles learns she's been talking to her ex-boyfriend, he savagely beats her. Hannah kills him in self-defense. Then Dexter arrives to help her hide Miles's body and urges her to stay in Miami to be with him. But when Deborah finds out Hannah is back, she tells her boss, Elway, who contacts U.S. Marshal Max Clayton to claim the large bounty on Hannah. Dexter's neighbor, Cassie, develops a romantic interest in him, but when Hannah returns, he rejects her, so she starts dating a man named Oliver Saxon. When Dexter discovers Cassie killed in the same way as Norma, he feels he failed to guide Zach in controlling his violent urges, so he and Hannah hunt Zach down to kill him in retaliation, but they stop. Zach insists he is innocent, showing he was occupied killing a stranger who had murdered 2 innocent girls. So Dexter, relieved that Zach followed Harry's code, helps him dispose of the body. But their growing mentorship abruptly ends when Dexter learns Zach has become the latest victim of the still-free brain surgeon, prompting Dexter to investigate his death. Vogel's DNA matches the evidence, and she states she had 2 sons, Daniel, who murdered Richard and was later institutionalized, and Richard, who died when the facility burned down. Dexter discovers that Daniel faked his death and has returned under the alias Oliver Saxon, the actual murderous brain surgeon, still resenting Vogel for locking him away as a child, but now urging his mother to guide him, as she once did Dexter, toward becoming an ethical. Vogel initially agrees to help her son, but after Dexter shows her footage of Daniel brutally murdering Zach, she accepts that he cannot be redeemed and must die. Yet when Daniel learns of her betrayal, he kills her, leaving Dexter devastated. Meanwhile, Dexter pursues Daniel, planning to make him his last victim before escaping to Argentina with Hannah and Harrison, while Deborah aiding Quinn in the official manhunt for the. In the end, Dexter catches Daniel and gets ready to kill him, but realizes he no longer craves murder, only to be with his family. So he lets go of his dark urges, leaves Daniel tied up, and calls Deborah to arrest him. As Deborah arrives, U.S. Marshal Max Clayton follows her, doubting she might be helping the fugitive Hannah. But when he discovers Daniel tied up and readied for execution, he frees him without realizing the threat, only for Daniel to kill Clayton, shoot Deborah with the marshal's gun, and escape, while Quinn rushes to the hospital to be with her, where the two confess their love. Kane. After hearing Deborah was shot and in critical condition, Dexter rushes to her side, only for her to urge him to leave his past behind and forgive himself. But before Dexter can respond to Daniel's confrontation at the hospital, Batista interrupts. Deborah suddenly suffers a severe stroke that leaves her permanently unconscious, so a heartbroken Dexter confronts the jailed Daniel at the police station, where he plants a pin on the table. Daniel grabs it to attack, but Dexter overpowers and kills him, insisting it was self-defense. Though Quinn and Batista distrust the explanation, they accept it to avenge Deborah, while at the season's end, Dexter tearfully says goodbye to Hannah and Harrison as they leave for Argentina, only to then remove Deborah from life support, ending her life, before carrying her body away. After drowning his sister at sea as his last victim, Dexter, convinced he doesn't deserve happiness, steers his boat into a storm, leading everyone to assume he died, though he actually starts over as a lumberjack in Oregon, exiling himself for his crimes. 10 years later, in Dexter, New Blood, Dexter Morgan, now living under the name Jim Lindsay in the small town of Iron Lake, New York, has settled into a quiet, isolated life in a cabin, suppressing his killing urges, though still tormented by visions of his dark passenger, Deborah. Dexter, who works as a shopkeeper at a fish and game store and is now dating the town's chief of police, Angela Bishop, hunts wild animals to satisfy his bloodlust, until a young man named Matt tries to buy a rifle from his store, prompting Dexter to run a background check that reveals Matt caused a deadly boating accident, which reignites Dexter's dark impulses, leading him to set up a new kill room and murder Matt after he protests. Dexter's father will go after him for revenge, while Angela directs the police hunt for the missing Matt, and Dexter volunteers to assist, quietly destroying any evidence that could implicate him. Meanwhile, Matt's father, Kurt, initially begs police to find his son, but later insists he has already heard from him as the investigation. Talking to Matt over FaceTime, I found out he had just gone to New York City, which makes Dexter suspicious about why Kurt would lie about his own son, especially since Kurt secretly wears a ski mask and hunts vulnerable. Kurt locks them in a bunker, monitors them through security cameras, and when he finally lets them go, claiming it's freedom, he shoots them with a hunting rifle as they flee. While the police hunt for his missing son, Matt raises his fear that they might stumble upon his crimes, forcing him to halt the search to hide his guilt. Yet even as he tries to stay under the radar, true crime podcaster Molly Park comes to Iron Lake to probe both Matt's disappearance and the town's many unsolved missing women cases. Harrison Morgan, now a teenager, comes to Iron Lakes to find his father, but Dexter hesitates to reconnect, fearing he'll make Harrison's life worse, until Harrison reveals his mother, Hannah, died of cancer, and that he had spent years in foster care after assuming Dexter was dead. After Harrison is stabbed at school, he claims Ethan, his friend, planned to kill their bullies, which led to him stepping in and the two accidentally stabbing each other, though Dexter suspects Harrison attacked first and may share his violent impulses. Meanwhile, his classmates praise Harrison as a hero, and he starts at a party. Harrison overdoses on fentanyl-laced drugs and tells Audrey his father's name is an alias. Then Dexter, after learning his son nearly died, hunts down and kills the dealer. As Dexter keeps lying about his past, his relationship with his son Harrison worsens, driving Harrison to take a job under Kurt, who starts mentoring him, something Dexter strongly dislikes, and under Kurt's guidance, Harrison's violent behavior escalates further. While his father grows worried, Angela and Molly team up to investigate Kurt after finding out he lied about Matt's whereabouts, and at a police conference, Angela meets someone. Now the captain of Miami Metro Police, Angel Batista, reflects on his former co-workers, Dexter and Deborah Morgan, which leads Angela to discover that her boyfriend, Jim Lindsay, is the supposedly deceased. After Angela confronts him, Dexter admits that the deaths of Rita and Deborah pushed him to leave Miami and begin a new life. Yet despite his explanation, Angela, heartbroken that their relationship was founded on deception, ends things with him. Later, when Dexter discovers Angela and Molly are collaborating on a case, he assumes they're investigating his past, and while tracking Molly, he sees Dexter steps in to rescue Molly and ruin Kurt's scheme. And when Angela finds the body of her long-lost childhood friend Iris, she turns to Dexter, who then uses his forensic skills and past experience to examine Iris's remains, leading police to discover Kurt's DNA on the body and arrest him. Under questioning, Kurt falsely claims his abusive father, not himself, murdered Iris, which gets him freed, after which he confronts Dexter, aware Dexter killed Matt, prompting Dexter to plan Kurt's murder in retaliation. As Kurt chases Harrison through the woods with his rifle, just like he did with his earlier female victims, Dexter appears in time to rescue his son, driving Kurt away, and then finally tells Harrison about his own past, his dark passenger, and promises to teach him Harry's code. The father and son finally reconcile and join forces to take down Kurt, only to uncover his collection of past victims kept as trophies in his bunker, including the recently killed Molly after they capture him. Dexter and Kurt kill the man in front of Harrison, pulling him fully into Dexter's hidden world, then hide Kurt's murder, but miss that the victim had already sent Angela an anonymous letter claiming Dexter murdered his son Matt, with Kurt gone. Dexter decides Iron Lake is too wholesome to teach Harry's code to Harrison and considers relocating with him to Los Angeles. Just as they're about to leave, Angela shows up to arrest Dexter for killing Matt. But Dexter insists Kurt murdered his own son and urges her to check the bunker to expose Kurt's crimes. Hesitant, Angela pauses to call for backup. After learning that Dexter faked his death and is now a suspect in a new murder case, Batista, who once dismissed his late ex-wife Lagerta's long-held suspicion that Dexter was the Bay Harbor butcher, finally takes her claims seriously and rushes to Iron Lake with all her gathered evidence, just as Angela uncovers the horrifying truth about Kurt's victims in his bunker. After Angela leaves, Dexter murders her partner, breaks out of the police station, and plans to abandon Iron Lakes forever, only to reunite with his son to flee together until Harrison discovers his father has just killed an innocent officer and that his loyalty to Harry's code. Harrison tells Dexter he destroyed his life and caused the deaths of many innocent people, including Rita and Deborah, so Dexter admits it's true, accepts his fate, and as Harrison shoots him, Dexter confirms with his last words that his son did the right thing. As the series ends, Angela lets Harrison escape, faking Dexter's death as self-defense, while Harrison leaves Iron Lake and reads a 10-year-old letter from Dexter to Hannah, revealing Dexter had